In today's video, I'm going to talk about 11 major differences between brands that do 7 figures and brands that do 8 figures. And before we get going into the video, let me just show you one quick thing, especially if you are a new viewer. For your own context, I work with 8-figure brands and 7-figure brands, so I'm in the day-to-day operations of actually growing and scaling e-commerce brands. This is one of our own clients that in one day in this month, they did $34,000 in sales. I show the proof in all my videos, especially if you are a new viewer, so you understand the type of caliber of clients that I'm typically used to working with. Now that I've got the proof out of the way, let's get going back into the video. So let's go through these 11 reasons and major differences. I'm going to go one by one and compare kind of what the 7-figure brand does and the 8-figure brand does. I'm not going to go like through one list and the other. I think it's better if we compare them apples by apples. Okay. So first thing, this is really important. The 7-figure brand, of course, the 7-figure brand is the gray one on the left, okay, for your own context. The 7-figure brand, they start with the product in mind. You know, all those people, all those gurus that, they tell you, hey, to get to, whatever X a day or a month, the most important thing is the product itself. I do understand the idea of product, and I do recognize the importance of having a product that has a unique value proposition, that is unique to the market, that is maybe something that nobody else has seen in the market before. I'm not saying those are not components that help, but it's not the major reason why brands are not able to scale. You need to understand that. In fact, how many times have we seen scenarios where we see an extremely saturated product, but that just kills the market, and they do like whatever 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars just purely online through their e-commerce channel? How many times have we seen that? And then we ask ourselves, let me just go and choose the product. Like, we don't dissect and understand why that is the case. Okay, that's my goal with this video, by the way. On the other side, instead of the 8-figure brands, they don't worry too much about the product. I mean, they choose the right product to promote for cold traffic, because you need to find a scalable way of promoting, to cold traffic and a scalable product. But the most important thing is the customer in mind, because once you understand the customer, then you can reverse engineer what problems they have, what desires they have, and what possible solution we can present, right? Let me just turn off my phone here, it's ringing. We can then present possible solutions, right, through an optimized, desirable sales process that resonates with the customer. We can promote an offer that is composed of products. Okay, once again, if the product has a unique value proposition, which in most cases 8-figure brands, even if it's small, they have like some sort of unique value proposition, but it's not this special product that nobody has ever seen before. In most cases, it's just the way that they present it in front of their customer with the right angle, but everything derives from the customer in mind. It doesn't come from the product. That is not how they start. We start from the customer, not the product. Understand that. Next thing is that 7-figure brands, they typically target a very broad avatar customer, and they don't have like a specific persona type. What happens when you have a specific persona type is that your CPMs drop because you're going after more specific people, right? Your sales process, right? What 8-figure brands do, your sales process is more congruent to that persona, and you can personalize it more. Your ads are more personalized, and your offer can also be more personalized if you go after a specific persona. If you have multiple personas within your ecom brand and your product and your offering, then you can create multiple funnels and multiple like ways of ads and sales processes, right? But typically, in most cases, the 7-figure brand, they just go after like Sally that is 40, that has maybe back pain. Okay, which maybe like back in the day used to be like pretty specific, but now like since there's so much competition, especially in these very competitive countries like USA, Canada, Australia, whatever, but especially the United States, if you want to scale aggressively in the US, very, very broad angle. So the very specific avatar, as an example, is maybe the 40-year-old Sally that has back pain and is a nurse because she's standing 12 hours a day on her desk or going through the hospital or the clinic for 12 hours. Because of that, and she's a nurse, she has back pain and she can't show up to her work 100%. She can't show up for her kids when she's back home because she's destroyed, she's tired, and she has back pain. You see how specific that persona is? It's not about nurse or not nurse. There's like also other types of personas that you can start building, right? But this is just a scenario so you understand at least how specific you should go, especially if you go after markets that are extremely saturated like the United States, okay? So keep that in mind. Next thing that I want to talk about is that they don't understand and analyze TAM, the total addressable market, okay? On the other side, 8-figure brands, they choose scalable markets that has a great addressable market, okay? So I'll give you an example. Like when you don't understand an addressable market, you may be going after uh, a niche that is just way too specific and is just not scalable, right? Maybe you're selling because you're looking for that unique product, right? In a super subcategory niche, whatever. Maybe you're selling like, I don't know, wine, or not wine, but maybe you're selling like a specific product that is only for like people that love vampires and the cult of like gothic cult. That could, I don't know, like maybe I should do my research. This is just an example, right? But maybe that addressable market is way too small. In fact, we had a client that was selling wine, and they were selling to this like gothic cult or niche or vertical, call it whatever you want. And we were like really struggling to scale. But then we researched that the gothic cult specific to what they were selling wasn't, that big, and people were not as interested, or maybe there were interested people, but it wasn't a scalable market. That was just a stupid example, but you get the point. They understand addressable market. 8-figure brands, they know what they're getting into. They know their TAM. They know how many. Let's just take the example, the nurses, right? I know, for example, that there's over 10 million nurses between men and women in the United States, right? Although that is not a big, massive market, maybe not like a $5 billion market, it probably is a $700 million market. And that is more than enough to get, to get your $10 million worth of shares. And guess what? Once you go specific and you get that market, meaning that you own it because you've done such a good job at dissecting and understanding TAM, then you can go after bigger addressable markets once you have that leverage. But I've also noticed over the time that people I asked them, like, what is your TAM? Like, what is your scalability potential? And people are like, oh, I'm not sure. That is one of the first things that you should know before you decide to scale a brand and start it. It's understand how much revenue you can pull off if you get 0.1% of the market, right? For example, or 0.3% of the market, something reasonable, right? 1% of the market is still not a lot, but in proportion to maybe other people, it kind of is, which is actually a good thing, right? But guess what? Also, going back to, where is it? Actually, it's a point that I want to talk about later. I'll talk about it later. Stay with me. Next thing is they overcomplicate ad account structures, okay? This is like this is a big topic because everybody, even in my community, I have like a school community where there's like 40, 50 people in there. Even those people, they ask me every single day on calls, like, what account structure do you use? Like, they don't understand that it's very simple. We use some CBOs, sometimes we use ABOs. The most important thing is finding an ad. If you find a winning ad that actually generates results, you can give it to the ad account. You can flip it. You can flip it horizontally, vertically, whatever you want. It's gonna work because it's a winning ad. It's resonating with the specific avatar persona, right? And it's working and it's scaling. And in most cases, those types of ads, the gurus that say, hey, only scale by like 7% a day, 10%. Typically, those ads, you can just double the budget and it's gonna work. Now, of course, we also have scaling practices. We like to scale by 20% every day or every other day in most cases. But if we see that it's a true winner, the true winners, you can just double the budget every day or every other day, and it's just gonna work because it's a winning ad. So the 8-figure brands, as they say here, they have a simple ad account structure. They spend 5% of their time on the ad account every single week, which is basically when they upload ads. And they spend 95% on the creative, on the offer, on the sales process, on the angle, and on the research. Okay, that is where they spend their time. So if this is where you're spending your time, trying to think that there's a special ad account structure, just shift framework. It's not the way to do it, okay? Moving forward, the 7-figure brand, they don't do much customer research. And I know that this is like a boring topic, perhaps, talking about research, but there's a lot. And I'll show you an example of how we do it and how multiple 8-figure brands do it, how they do research. But we like to use ChatGPT o3 and go through a big rabbit hole, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But the major difference between brands that scale and don't is that the brands that scale, they scale because they find winning ads. How do they find winning ads? They find winning ads by implementing and understanding buying triggers, buyer psychology, to trigger people to see the ad, click, and buy. How do they do that? They do that with deep research. They know their customer. I always say this, as if it's their sibling or their parent. Like, they know so much about the customer that they know more about the customer than the customer knows more about themselves. It's kind of like weird and crazy and obsessed. You need to be obsessed about the customer. Even like billionaires like Jeff Bezos, if you ask him what is the one thing that you really want to you focus on that allow you to scale, he will always say the customer. keeping the customer in mind, understanding how can you get feedback from the customer other than doing research. You can do two things: post-purchase surveys. Okay, you can put a survey at the end of your funnel and understand what made them buy, right? Or what made them choose this product over others, so you get feedback. And you can also call them and do surveys and get real reviews, email your list, and you can also just call them. Like, what made you want to purchase, Mrs. Smith, whatever, your customer, what made you purchase the product? If you answer these questions, I'm more than happy, by the way, to give you another, whatever, you give them a reason to answer your question. Now, I'm just going to show you an example just so you understand the type of research and standard of research that we expect. And we actually do this pretty much on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis for our clients to come up with angles that are like unique, right? And this is something that you should do continuously. 8-figure brands actually have research departments. They have people, probably also like 9-figure brands maybe have research departments, but it's just a department doing on research to understand what is new to the market, how can we address new avatars, how can we address new angles. So here's just something like, let's just say you're not maybe starting from scratch, but you want a new revolutionary angle or persona to target for one specific vertical. In this case, this is what I wrote it. And I'm choosing ChatGPT o3. 4.0 is like great for most tasks, right? But o3, we like to use advanced reasoning just because it's giving you all the research articles. It's going through Reddit. It's basically a creative strategist for you with an AI, basically an AI agent. So I said it here. I'm selling healing strips for back pain, foot pain, neck pain. I want to find new avatars and angles that are less saturated so I can take over the market. Please do deep research and come up with very specific, unique avatar customers and angles instead of just selling to 50-year-old Bob that has back pain. Okay, this is just an example. And so it took 1 minute, by the way, through 7 sources. This would have taken me 30 minutes, right? It took 1 minute to give you, and by the way, it doesn't take 4 minutes like 4.0. It takes 1 minute because it actually takes the time to do the research for you, even in a more in-depth way. Okay, and so it says below are 8 underserved but fast-growing micro markets you can own with pain relief strips plus the most reasonable angles. You get the point. And so it's basically giving me avatars with killer angles and hook ideas so that I can at least go and you're probably not going to find the answer in the first research, but you're going to get into the rabbit hole, which is what I was saying before. So here we have the Zoom slump analyst, 25 to 40-year-old remote SaaS employees logging in from 9 to 12 in a dining room chair, right? Whatever. And so remote, why they hurt and why it's underserved. Remote hour correlates to 23% higher risk of upper back and shoulder pain. So maybe this gave me innovation towards something else that is more interesting. And so maybe I can go and serve people that sit on chairs, or like coders, or people that do 9 to 5 that sit on their chair for like 10, 12 hours a day in most cases. Right? There's many types of workers, people that walk in the office, they work on their desk. So I'm targeting people that specifically work in the desk, that are in a specific age range or maybe going through a situation in their life that have lower back pain, and they want to go back to their kids and be active or just not have back pain. I would also debate that is maybe something a bit more saturated and broad, and so I would dive deeper, but this is giving me some ideas. Another one is, let's just see, I saw one that was more interesting. New mom carriers from 0 to 6 months postpartum mothers who do like baby wear, and so they're looking for baby wear products. So postnatal exercise trials show targeted trunk support reduces lower back pelvic pain severity. OTC meds feel unsafe while nursing. Okay, so this is a good angle. You're going after moms, specifically moms that have newborns, right? And then you propose something for their back solution. Okay, one other thing that I would do is to make sure that there's enough market. I would do some research, like how many moms in ChatGPT have toddlers or new babies that are between the age of 0 to 2 years old or something like that, or 1 year old, before the baby maybe starts walking. And at that stage the mom probably needs to hold the baby, right? And that's why it provokes their back pain, and with the breastfeeding and everything. So this is a whole interesting angle. Then there's also other angles, but you get the point. Guess what then? You can also read through Reddit forums and dive deeper and go into the Reddit rabbit hole, but this is done for you. This is literally done for you. And if you're not satisfied, or if you want more, you can keep on going until you dissect and get inspiration, and then you can do just so much research. Imagine doing this even 3-4 times a week, 2-3 times a week. Are you going to get more ideas? Are you going to find more unique angles? The answer is of course. And this is how 8-figure brands work and what they focus on. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. Next thing. 7-figure brands, they span test creatives without understanding why their creatives are failing them. Okay? Understand one important thing. When you do your creatives, most of them, even for 8-9 figure brands, they're going to fail. In fact, 80-90% of the ads are going to fail. You would be doing a disservice to yourself if you don't take the time to analyze why those ads did not work, keeping into consideration that you spend most of the times doing them. And so if you don't take that extra time to analyze why it didn't work, then how are you going to come up with new tests that make sense? In fact, this is how the 8-figure brand does it. They compare failed ads with winning ad frameworks. They understand why the ad did not work. So this is the way that we do it, okay? So it's very simple. We basically analyze, these are the failed ads, and this is the winning ad. What we do is that we break down why the winning ad worked so that we can compare it with a failed ad. What we do is that we come up with strategic A/B tests that actually make sense. And this is an example. Let's just say that the winning ad had this specific framework. Let's just say that this is the failed ad and it had this specific framework and reasoning. This A/B test is just an example. It has reasoning to it. It's not randomized, but it's based on the winner. So I say here, we noticed that the winning ad had a hook rate above 50%, which is great. The hook was with the doctor showing up in the first 5 seconds. Let's try to emulate the same concept in a different way, right? And so maybe we strategically want to split test this A/B or A/B test this hook that was derived from a concept that worked well for a winning ad. And so it's not random, right? Because this hook was 50%, which is very good, right? 40, 50, 60% is a great hook that makes a great ad. And it had these specific components. Maybe we want to try to emulate this on the new ad. And so the same thing with like maybe the body. I'm not going to go through another example. You can stop the video and read through it, but you get the point, right? So it's strategic and it's a strategically placed test. It's not random. And I've noticed time and time over and over again is that I ask, how are you testing your creatives? And they just say, oh, we try to find what works in the market. We try to copy it, which isn't like a bad idea, but they don't understand why those ads are working, which is the worst idea, right? Not understanding why this works. Moving forward, the 7-figure brand, they don't understand why winning creatives are winners in the first place. On the other side, they fully understand why winners are winners. And so this is important, not just because we want to have a comparison structure where we know and we have, okay, we understand what the winner is, and now we can compare it to failed ads. But it's also just important to understand why winners are winners. So the way that we do it actually is that we have something called a scientific ads breakdown document, which looks something like this. And we put all the best winning ads of our competitors and our own ads into this document. There's like 40 pages here for like, this is just for one client. And so we break down the ad. In this case, the winning ad is a podcast style ad. There's a link to it so that my team can see it. And we break down the ad framework. So what structure was the video? When happened and what happened in what time frames, the buying triggers. And by the way, you can do this with ChatGPT. You can literally go in here in ChatGPT and type in, I'm not going to do it now, but you can type in, hey, give me, here is this transcript, right? You can transcribe the video. You can go on tools like Autria, click on one of your, let's just say you're looking after, I don't know, Flamingals is one of your top competitors. You click on the ad, you know that this is a winner. And then you can go in here and transcribe it. This is an easy way to transcribe it. You can also clone the ad, but there's also, it's not here for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I think I have to click in. Anyways, you can use this app. There's an option to transcribe here. It should show up. And so you can transcribe it, put it into ChatGPT, and ask it to give you the following things. The buying triggers and the ad frameworks. Then the further thing that we do to get it to another level is that we basically divide the timestamps by every 2 to 5 seconds to understand what's working or what scenes are present in that specific time frame so that the team knows. So scene 1, 0 second from 0 to 1. This is the hook. This is the description of the B-roll. This was the B-roll, the frame, so my creative team knows. And this is exactly what happened. We do this across multiple other ads. You see 35 to 42, 42 to 46. We're breaking them down very, very scientifically because we want to fully understand why those ads are working. Maybe we can find a way to replicate those ads, right? So we're very, very hard on that, and it obviously works. It just takes a lot of time, which is why people are just lazy, right? Doesn't make sense. Don't be lazy. Next thing, they don't track their ad hit rate. This is so important. Every time I hop on a call, I'm like, what's your ad hit rate? What's the ad hit rate, by the way? It's basically understanding how many ads it takes to find a winner, okay? How many ads does my team need to reproduce to be able to find a winner. A good hit rate is, in my opinion, for ecom is like 10% or above. If you have 10%, 1 in 10 ads are working, you can probably find a medium to like large winner every week. And if you do that, that's when you can scale. Like that's when it gets really, really interesting. Okay. On the other side, the ad hit rate is one of the top priorities in mind. Everything is tracked methodically for ad hit rate. So one sheet that we have in mind, just to show you, is just the command center. I've shown this many times in all my videos. You can get the sheet, by the way, which has so many other sheets. We call it command center because we track creatives, we track ad copy. There's a daily report. We track visuals. We track UGC collaborations. I'm not going to show you right now. It would take me a bit long, but there's a lot you can see here. Like there's a lot of things that you can need, that you probably need, which is what we use to scale our clients. Just get it. It's free. There's a link down below. Either way, this is the way that we track hit rate. We track every single test on this creative testing tracker, which we call. Each test is basically a test that is composed of like 3 to 4 creatives in the ad account with like variations. And so we track everything of that concept. And if it's a winner, right, we go ahead and track, this is like break even. There's like, winner, break even, loser, or to be determined. Based on what we choose after determine, spend, we track win rate, which is here. In this case, for this client, this is a real dashboard. We have a 12% hit rate, right, on the concepts, which is very good. It's scalable. It's very sustainable. We have a 35% to be determined because we're testing so much, right? 30% are losers, and 23% are to be determined. So basically, like 50% are either losers or break even, which is good, which means like we're not really losing a lot of money when we're testing, and 12% are like either medium to large winners. What's a medium winner? A medium winner is like something that spends tens of thousands of dollars eventually in the lifetime. A larger winner is something that spends like 80, 100, 6 figures and spend eventually. That is what we consider a big winner. So we track it like this. It's very methodical. Then we have like learnings and notes, right? Once we track all the tests, then we can be very methodical about what we want to do test. But this, what we want to do next, sorry. But this is how we track hit rate. It's very, very methodical with this sheet. Just use it. There's a link down below. It's free. You have nothing to lose there. Next thing, we're almost done. The creative tests are randomized without a specific criteria or hypothesis, right? They hope something sticks. Basically, they hope something sticks. And on the other side, the creative tests are based on hypotheses that are backed by data, not randomized. I already went through this example. I'm not going to repeat myself. But you need a couple of things to basically not create random tests. Is have a tracker so you can track why things work. For example, here, the test number 3, we know exactly the marketing angle we used, the emotion, the avatar, the hook, the messaging that we used, everything. So we can go back and analyze the numbers and come up with conclusions, right? And then, of course, we combine it with like comparing this creative concept with like a winning ad like this one. And we can then make also assumptions and tests. So we use 2 things. You need to know what ads are working, so you can compare the failed ad with the winning ad, as I said before. And you need a creative testing tracker so that you can create a sheet like this, where you know everything about the creative concept that you tested in the ad account, why it worked, why it didn't work, what ad copy you used, what creatives you used, so on and so forth. You need these 2 things. I'm going to move on because I already discussed this. But moving forward, we're almost done. We have like 2 more. Their growth is related to how much of a winner their product is until it dies out. This is a big one, okay? 8-figure brands, I say here, have good products. In many cases, great products, good products, but I've seen so many like extremely saturated, like good products, don't get me wrong, but extremely saturated products, right? Very, very saturated products that scale. And so 8-figure brands have good products, but it's not why they scale. They scale due to above average marketing skills. They have a marketing system that allows them to scale and replicate finding winning ads, a replicatable system. Okay, they have something replicatable, sorry, that they can just do continuously week over week. That is the missing component that 7-figure brands don't have. They just don't have a system. The major difference between 7 figures and 8 figures is that 7 figures don't have systems, processes in place to make winners happen again. That is the major, major difference. And so, as I say here, they basically rely on the winner until it dies out, right? Of course, if you have like a revolutionary product new to the market, your chances of succeeding are higher. But over time, other competitors are going to dive in. And if you can't find your leverage by scaling hard and getting the majority of the market, you're going to be left behind. You need a system, okay? You need a system. This is really, really important. So long story short, don't just focus on finding that winner. Focus on understanding what makes people buy and create a system to replicate finding winning ads. How do you create the system? It's all everything that I went through so far. Tracking your data, making a hypothesis, understanding why winners are winners, understanding why losers are losers, so on and so forth. Next thing, last one, the 11th. They scale saturated markets without understanding saturation. And here they understand blue versus red ocean markets and know how to approach them. I'll give you an example. Okay, very, very practical example here. This is what a red ocean market looks like. And this is you trying to promote it. You're a little dot trying to get your, to 100K days, but it's like impossible because every time you scale, your CPMs are like not ready for scale. They're too high. They're like $40, $50, $100. It's impossible. Okay, maybe you can get to 100K a month, whatever, but in most cases, this is you if you go after the 40-year-old Sally who has back pain, the example that I shared before. You're going after too broad of a market, and you're competing against probably like 350 brands, and many of them are like just owning the majority of the market. So this is you, and you don't want to be this little dot. What we want to do, and of course, what are the consequences of this approach if you don't really understand how to approach a specific saturated market, is there's high CPMs, it's hard to scale, and your CAC, your cost per acquisition, is extremely high. It's just not scalable. Okay? What we want to do and how 8-figure brands approach this is that they have a crystal clear idea of the avatar customer and they are targeting. It's not broad, it's the opposite. It's very specific. Let me show you how this works. So instead of targeting the 40-year-old Sally who has back pain, once again, same example. 40-year-old Sally who is a nurse who works 12-hour shifts and has chronic back pain. She needs a solution right now to show up for her work in a healthy manner so that she can serve in her community and her work, because nurses care about that. They care about others and they put their health before others people, or else they wouldn't be nurses. And they want to be there for their kids when they're back home from their 12-hour shift to not really worry about chronic back pain. And so this is such a specific avatar going after nurses that you're still going to be this tiny dot, but in this blue ocean market, which is way less saturated. So, and maybe instead of having 350 competitors, maybe you have like 3 or 10, 5, right? And it's way easier to compete. Your CPMs are low. What is CPM? Like everybody asks me, like, I can't control CPM. I can't control CPM. It's true to one certain example or extent, but you actually can control CPM by changing the way that you target your people, or sorry, not the way that you target, but changing who you want to target and the angle proposition that you're presenting to the Facebook marketplace to target that persona. If you go after a specific avatar with a specific pain point that is underserved and not many people are targeting, meaning that there's less competition, your CPMs are going to be just fine. They're just going to be fine. Okay? So this example is specifically, if you have a very unique product that is already like in a market that is underserved, then that is when, like, for example, like grounding shoes, revolutionary product. Like there's 2 ways to scale. Let me break it down. I go over here as well. You have a revolutionary product, meaning it like barefoot shoes when they entered the market like 4 years ago. In fact, Hike Footwear, which is one of the major brands, they do $5 to $6 million a month, and they target pretty broad personas. They can afford to do that because they enter the market. It's like first comers. Whoever comes first acquires the most data and leverage, and so you can do that, right? So that they basically caught a trend and presented to that trend a unique product into the marketplace, right? You can do that, and then you still need the marketing foundation. You still need everything. I'm not saying you don't need what I just spoke about, but you still need the marketing principles, but you can afford to be a bit more general and broad with your personas. If you are selling a saturated product in a saturated market, which is what most people are doing, and what I would personally also maybe recommend, I would recommend going after a saturated market in a saturated vertical, right? And maybe sell the same product that somebody else is selling, but with a differentiator, so that you can leverage that in the marketing to help you, right? So you have a differentiating factor. That is not alone the reason why you scale. The reason why you scale is because you understand marketing, what makes people buy. It's marketing, right? Everybody has heard the saying. It's like some brands, like, in fact, wait, don't get me wrong. Like in some cases, the brands that scale to like multiple 8 figures in like 2-3 years are great marketers, but if their product then sucks, then those are the brands that typically after 5 years, you'll see that they're just not there anymore. It's like too much of a bad reputation. But going back to what I was saying here, 2 ways. You have a revolutionary product, so you get market share, or you do this other approach, but you have to be smart with how you address your market. And so if you want to scale, you can scale by doing this. I'm not sure why these are green. They should be blue. But you can basically scale with this approach where you scale horizontally with different personas so that you gradually gain leverage. Once you have the leverage, then you can maybe go after a market that is a bit more bigger and saturated, but you can afford to do that because you have the cash flow to test, and also you have the data to acquire these customers over other people that are entering a saturated market, essentially. So you have leverage. Once you have leverage, then you can do pretty much whatever the heck you want. You get the point. So this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this video. I know that it was a tip, it's like a 40-50 minute video. I did talk about a lot of points. I hope you found it valuable. I hope in some ideas and some new ideas. My goal is just if I can just help you find that one thing that makes you have that haha moment, whatever it's called, that little bridge, that little gap, that little inspiration of this new idea that you had stuck in your mind that you didn't know if it was validated. Hopefully I got that into your mind and it got some value. If you are a brand, by the way, doing at least $100,000 a month, and you want these systems and processes plugged into your business, you want us to help you scale with you as growth partners. If you're 100K a month, plus or minus, book in a call. You can probably speak with me or one of my team members, and then we can explore the opportunity of working together. That is it for this video. See you on that call, and definitely see you in the next video. Bye for now.